Hello everyone, in this video we're going to talk about how we can perform reflections. So remember, reflections is just a type of transformation, and a transformation is just a movement, something that changes a shape. It moves it from one place to another, or it flips it, or it turns it, or it enlarges it, it reduces it, something like that. The one that we're focusing on today in this video is known as a reflection. A reflection is a transformation in which a figure is flipped or reflected in a line called the line of reflection. So we see this example here. We have two triangles. Notice how, let's say they are right triangles. So we have a right angle in here. Notice how one triangle starts with the right angle on the left side, which I'm going to act like this is my hand, and then we're flipping it over a line of reflection. Okay, so a couple things about this. The orientation of the shape should be different, right? It should be opposite because we're taking it from one side and we're flipping it to the other. And then also the vertices of our points, once we talk about this in terms of a coordinate plane, they should be the same distance from both sides of that line of reflection. So if my vertice here at the right angle was 7 units to the left of my line of reflection, then the vertice here on the right side, that shape should be 7 units to the right of the line of reflection. Okay. All right, so let's look at some basic examples first, just to see if these would represent a reflection. So for number one, we have these two banners here. It says due date. And notice how the first one, we have it's like right side up. We can read the letters. But then the other one, it appears that we have, in fact, flipped it over. And right, we see kind of the back side, the letters are reflected and everything like that. So this would be a good example of a reflection. Okay. Number two, though, our line of reflection is now at the bottom, but it doesn't look like we're flipping this exam banner, right? So we're going to say no for number two. If you remember from a previous video we did, this would be another type of transformation known as a translation, right? We just shifted it down. Okay, so not a reflection here for number two, but number one would be. All right. Now, how does this affect points actually in the coordinate plane? Well, if we reflect in the x-axis, so that's like taking a shape or a vertice from the bottom, one of the bottom two quadrants and flipping it up to the top, or vice versa. Okay, so what that's going to do is it's going to make our y coordinates opposite, right? So think, for example, if I had the point 2, -3, well, when I reflect it above, that point is still 2 units, right? The x coordinate is still 2, but now the y coordinate would be +3. So that's why the y coordinate becomes opposite. Similarly, but opposite, when we reflect over the y-axis, then our x coordinate becomes opposite and the y coordinate will stay the same. Okay, so let's look at a couple examples here where we're going to reflect these, or the same shape, but number one, we'll reflect it in the x-axis, and number two, we'll reflect it in the y-axis. So the x-axis is our horizontal axis right there, and so however many units below these points are from the x-axis, they want to be the same number of points above, right? So let's look at vertice A. It is just 1 unit below, so we're going to move it 1 unit above our x-axis just like that. B is 1, 2, 3, 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4 units above. And then C is also 4 units below, so it's going to move 4 units above. So this would be our new shape here. So we'll draw those vertices, or draw those lines. So now this would be actually called A prime, this would be B prime, and this would be C prime. So that prime, it looks like an apostrophe. That just essentially means the new shape or the image of the original shape. Okay. All right, number two, we're going to reflect on the y-axis. So our shape should end up over here in quadrant 3. So for A, it was 1 unit to the right, so we'll move it 1 unit to the left. Same for B. And then C was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left. Okay, so let's connect these points here. Then we'll label our vertices. So this would be A prime, B prime, and C prime. Okay, so those are our reflections. Now let's just take one vertice from each of those triangles and see if what we thought was going to happen to its vertices or its coordinate actually did. So for number one, we reflect on the x-axis, which means our y coordinate should have became opposite. Well, let's look at A. A was 1, -1, 1, -1. Well, now A prime is 1, 1. So notice how the y coordinate went from -1 to +1, but the x coordinate stayed the same. Okay. Now let's look at number two. Let's go with vertice C. Vertice C started at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5, 4. Now vertices C prime is negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excuse me, this was 5, negative 4. Fix that real quick. Okay. And then vertices C is negative 5, negative 4. Okay. So notice how the x coordinate now became opposite, just like we saw up here, but the y coordinate stayed the same. Okay. So these reflections, you'll continue to look at these as you progress through your math career in the different courses that you take, specifically in geometry. So I'll link a video that I've made for my geometry course to the description of this video if you want to see kind of how this translates going forward into high school geometry. But for now, that's how you can perform some reflections.